If a general election rematch between President Joe Biden and former President Trump took place now, Trump would win. Emerson's August polling shows that in a hypothetical matchup, 46% of respondents said they'd vote for Trump, 44% said they'd vote for Biden. Now, with Green Party hopeful Cornel West added to the mix, 44% would go for Trump and 39% would go for Biden. That's a 5-point drop for the incumbent. Not everything is coming up sunny for the Don, however. Following this month's GOP primary debate, Trump's popularity amongst the GOP primary field dropped by 6 percentage points from a poll conducted the week prior.
Looking at the Emerson polling on other GOP candidates more closely, 27% think Vivek Ramaswamy won the debate, while 21% think Ron DeSantis won and 12% think Mike Pence won. 11% think that Haley won. Haley saw the largest increase in support among Republican candidates, jumping 5 points from 2% to 7%.
As for the Democratic contest, 61% of primary voters support Joe Biden, an 8-point decrease from the poll week prior, while 12% of voters support Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Marianne Williamson has 4% of the voter support, leaving 23% undecided. Joining us now to break down the latest Emerson poll is polling director Spencer Kimball. Welcome, Spencer.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So first and foremost, how much confidence should we have in these kinds of polls, especially given how far out we are from the election, the primary, of course, but especially the general election?
Yeah, certainly we're, 13, 14 months out from November 2024. But I think what's important to look at here is just the state of the race and some of the movement that happened over the course of the last couple of months to the last couple of years. Remember, Biden wins this election in 2020 by 4.5 points. So we would expect to see the president in his reelection campaign doing a little bit better. It's interesting to see him trailing Trump. Remember, the Republicans haven't won a national election since 2004, when the popular vote. And so it'll be interesting to see if the Republicans are able to reverse those fortunes.
You know, the midterms, the 2022 midterms went, I think, better for Democrats than was widely expected by the pundits, at least. I'm not sure if maybe the polling reality was a little off as well, but it suggests that there's something a little unmeasured about Biden's base of support. You know, we talked in the past about shy Trump voters. Is there such a thing as a shy Biden voter or a Biden voter who's somehow not captured by polling or punditry?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't have to look any further than the 2000 election. Remember, Biden loses Iowa, then he goes and loses New Hampshire, then he lost Nevada. We haven't seen a presidential candidate do that really since Bill Clinton in '92. And now he's able to bounce back in South Carolina. So I see Biden as really a late break. And so in these poll numbers, there is a group of voters on the sideline that are undecided. But what I'm not seeing in those voters is that they kind of make up the Biden base. They're not necessarily just younger or minority voters that really propelled Biden. They're kind of split across the electorate at this point.
Yeah, in fact, with younger voters under 30, I saw a poll a couple of weeks ago that put Marianne Williamson and Joe Biden almost neck and neck with respect to that particular cohort. Of course, that cohort tends to vote in smaller numbers than older voters. Let me ask you about this other part of the poll where most people perceive Vivek Ramaswamy as having won the debate, although Nikki Haley saw the most gains from the debate. How do you parse the utility of the won the debate number if at the end of the day it doesn't necessarily translate into gains for you in the polls?
Yes, and so that's the question about these debates. What's the impact of them? And so what we've noticed here is that Trump lost 5 to 6 points in his overall support. And where did it go? It didn't go to one candidate. It wasn't like Haley picked it up or Ramaswamy picked it up or DeSantis or even Pence. It kind of got spread out, suggesting that the Republican field, even without Trump, is very splintered. And what's going to happen over the course of the next couple of weeks or months is that a clear alternative will either emerge and take on Trump, or it'll continue to be splintered, in which case Trump will have a very strong position with at least plurality support.
You know, Trump skipped the debate saying he doesn't need to do it, he's so far ahead, et cetera. You know, with the fact that he lost 6 points, you know, whether it goes to one candidate or gets split or not, do you think that maybe that sends a message to Trump or the Trump campaign that sitting out the debate was not a good idea. If it's going to gradually cause him to erode support and have that. I mean, he's fortunate if it's diffuse and spread amongst a various candidate rather than like all going to DeSantis or something. But still, it's a loss of support.
Yeah, and really, I'm not surprised by this because we saw this in 2016 when he skipped the Iowa debate before the Iowa caucus. We had him up by like 8 to 10 points. Then, boom, it was a tied race. He ends up losing the Iowa caucus. And so skipping these debates, not necessarily that they were all, gung-ho for Trump, but it kind of opens up voters' minds and saying, well, I could go with this candidate now, and I could go with that candidate. And so I think it did weaken Trump to some extent, more so than the indictments, actually, at this point.
Let's talk about the Green Party aspect of all of this. Many people on the left make the argument that Green Party votes don't actually have a spoiler effect because the people who are voting Green are largely so disaffected that they would not vote for a Democrat under any circumstances. Although these poll results do seem to suggest that some votes are being taken from Biden since the gap between he and Trump's victory over him broadens with Cornel West in the race. What do you know from all of your experience in pollings about the substantive effect of having third-party candidates, be they libertarian candidates, which are often not a part of this conversation for some reason, even though many more people vote for libertarian candidates than Green Party candidates, and of course the Green Party?
Yes, and we have the no labels movement as well, moving forward with potentially a candidate. But in particular, the Green Party, we can't forget Jill Stein in 2016. And I'm not arguing here that the Green Party is going to win the election, but in states that results are going to be 10, 20,000 votes, that's where a 3%, 4%, 5% to a Green Party candidate would cost, in my opinion, the Democratic candidate the election in this case. We're seeing that vote is polling from minority and younger voters, and that's part of the Biden base, not the Trump base. And so with the Cornel West candidacy, that's something to keep an eye on, particularly for the Democrats. We'll see if maybe the no labels have a reverse effect on the Republicans. We haven't really seen that yet in our numbers, but we definitely have seen West pulling that vote, and that's something that Biden's going to have to secure to get reelected.
I think I can recall seeing, higher poll numbers for the third-party candidates, the Green Party candidate, the Libertarian Party candidate over the course of campaigns, and then those numbers start to come down right before the actual election, and then the overall totals are lower than what people are polled, and they say, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for a third party. I'm really open to it. And then the closer it gets, the more mentally to people it seems like a zero-sum contest. And then in the end, they do. A lot of people do, even who signaled willingness to go third party. I say this as a third party voter myself, who's often hoping for a good outcome for the Libertarian Party, and there have been some better outcomes than in recent cycles, but it's not the 10% that the polling suggests at one point. It's still like 1%, 2%, 3%.
Yeah, well, first, with the third-party candidates, they're all trying to get to that 15% threshold to get on the debate stage. And if you remember Gary Johnson in 2016, he was very close to getting to that threshold until he had his foreign policy moment that he didn't, do well on and basically melted away. And as you said, there is lots of melt on third parties where they say, and right now we're going to be seeing what I would call a scorched earth campaign if it's Biden versus Trump. And in that race, people are kind of turned off and they'll say, well, I don't want either one of these candidates. I'm going to go with the third party. But on election day, as you mentioned, they will come back. And so there is that element of surprise for Biden where he is trailing. But if that vote does melt away from the third party, I think it goes back to Biden and not towards Trump.
It's also worth noting that a lot of Green Party third-party voters, and I'm sure Libertarian third-party voters as well, are eager to get to the 5% threshold where they get federal matching funds. That's a huge, real consequence of voting third-party, despite being told frequently that doing so causes you to waste your vote. Thank you so much for joining us and walking us through some of these numbers today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks again for having me.